Appreciate y'all chilling and politicking and paying attention because it's real vital. You heard me? Trench Talk TV. So that's what it's gonna sound like. It ain't gonna sound like nothing sugarcoated. It ain't gonna sound like what you want to hear. It's gonna be Trench Talk.
We want to welcome y'all to another episode of Trench Talk TV, where we educate, exhibit, and explore perspectives from the trenches all over. And here today, man, we got us a pioneer of the Louisiana music scene, Joker P. Introduce yourself. How you doing today?
Hey, I appreciate it, Trench Talk TV. This is Joker P. You hit it right on the head. I'm one of the original pioneers. I say I really was the first really gangster rapper in Baton Rouge. My first song was called Graveyard Shift 1991. So, that's how far I go back, good brother.
All right. Sound like this is gonna be a nice little history lesson for today.
You better believe it, good brother.
We're gonna start from the beginning. Could you tell us where you from?
Well, I'm from South Baton Rouge. I'm from the area a lot of people know as the Bottom. That's where I'm originally from. That's where I started out at. As it was just like any other neighborhood. It was rough, and but we grew up real tight, like family, like you know what I mean. And so we
Siblings?
I got a twin brother. Actually his name is Piper, the comedian. He do comedy and everything too. So he's also an entertainer. And I had another older brother, but he's passed on right now, And so, but other than that, I grew up just like anybody else, that's around America, basically. Rough neighborhood, you had to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, in other words, you know what I mean?
Did you grow up with both parents?
Yes and no, I grew up with a stepdad, and also I ended up, getting close to my real dad, but he didn't live with us. But so I had both mother and father in a sense. My stepdad he jumped in and took the place of a real dad. He taught me how to do sports, and he was very active out in the social community. So coming up, I was handing out flyers for people to go vote and doing stuff like that. Or when it came down to civil rights and being knowing about Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, I was exposed to that at a young age, so
So safe to say, you was raised nice middle class household.
Well, I wouldn't call it about middle class, you know what I mean? But I grew up with a sense of family and a sense of like community where all the community was like family. I was in South Baton Rouge, of course. That's the area where McKinley, is, which is one of the first schools in Baton Rouge. Predominantly black school. It has a lot of history and a lot of heritage. So I came up with that same type of upbringing and everything, and it kind of stuck with me. So when I was ready to really get off into the street life or get off into my homeboys or whatever, our mothers knew the mothers and the fathers knew the fathers, and they did things together. So it was easy for us to be able to become friends and everything. And that's kind of like when I first started getting into the rap.
You mentioned before we get to the rap, you mentioned McKinley. How was school for you coming up in Baton Rouge? What era was this we talking?
Well, we talking about the late '80s, early '90s. So when I went to McKinley, of course, I lived right down the street from McKinley, so I walked to school. It was literally 2 blocks from my house. And so my mother went to McKinley. Just to give you an example, my mother went to McKinley. And when I went to McKinley, we had the same teacher. You know what I mean?
So, one of them.
It's one of them. Where, a teacher that taught my mother, had happened to be in the same class with this lady. That's how long she had been teaching at McKinley. So, it was like I said, it was a lot of pride and being proud to be from, Big Blue Machine. You know what I mean? So, and that's what it is.
Got in a lot of trouble in school?
Yeah. I did, but I was able to. I was pretty good in school. Passing tests and doing things like that became kind of easy for me. So I still was able to graduate on time. Even though I got expelled twice in 4 years, I've been suspended 8 times in 1 year. And still was able to, to graduate because I was able to. I could retain a lot of that stuff. It didn't. You know what I mean?
It never is. It never is the schoolwork that's the hard part.
Right.
So you graduate McKinley High School. What year is this?
I graduated in 1988, class 88. So, I guess that put kind of age on me now, but that's when I graduated. And you also talked about, the good thing about when I was at McKinley is, usually, as a kid, you don't become popular until you're like in the junior year or become a senior. I came popular right out the gate by me rapping and everything, and so when we getting off into the rap, that coincides with me going to school too. So the newspaper came to my school when I was 15 years old. I was in the 9th grade, so I was voted most talented in the school in the yearbook. So everybody knew Joker P as I was a freshman. So all the talent shows, I won everything. So everybody knew me. So when I went to McKinley, everybody know who I was already Joker P. You know what I mean?
So about what age were you when the music came into the picture?
Well, I started out just being influenced by New York and being influenced by just the hip hop in general. I can remember watching the movie Crush Groovin'. I sat on the front row to go watch that movie. And just the hip hop and Run DMC, and we talking the beginnings of hip hop. It
Right.
just was something that I just was being able to express yourself and in that manner musically. So it was combining music with being able to to express yourself, and it was like an art to me. And so it's just something that I just fell in love with, just the fashion, just being kind of like, it was almost like being a outcast or outlaw, you know what I mean, or rebel in a sense, because it was like hip hop, it was like, it was like wearing my Adidas. It was like, Crush Groove, this is what it is, the break dance, and it was, the graffiti, just everything about it, and so I fell in love with it instantly. So I used to go and so me and my homeboys named Chill, another homeboy named Elliot, we used to call him MC Yes. We went to Radio Shack. We went and got a turntable, we put our money together and got a turntable. We went and got a mixing board, and we already had the house speaker. So we were deciding who was going to rap, because at that time DJing was more kind of cooler than being a rapper.
Right.
So it was kind of like who we wanted to rap or whatever. So we ended up deciding, and I became Joker P, right then and there. And so from then and there, man, we used to go in our neighborhood, and I put the speakers on the porch and the turntable and bring it out on the front porch and just have the speakers out there, and I have a microphone and I just be jamming the whole neighborhood. You know what I mean? So it was like that.
How'd you get the name Joker P?
Joker P came from really almost when we formed the group, when we all three of us came with the equipment and everything. It was more or less MC Yes used to kind of call himself the king or whatever. And so it was like, well, if you're gonna be the king, then I'm gonna be the Joker. And so it was kind of like that. And so at that time, everything was, whatever it was, you would always end it with an initial. So it was like Ice T or like Eric B, or it was like that. So it was like Joker and P, you know what I mean? So, and that's how it was. So I was the Joker. And then my character, my personality is always joking and laughing kind of like anyway, so it was kind of like, it just kind of fit. And I just thought it was, it was
Based off the names you spitting, that man, how you talking, it's not just a music thing. It sounds like you more of a hip hop culture.
Yeah. I always say that I am hip hop. You know what I mean? When sometimes people look at you and they may say, the age that you are, you're like, damn, you listen to that or whatever. And I say, well, that's almost like me telling my mom, do they listen to blues? You know what I mean? Because that was their era. That's when they was there when it originated. So I was there when it originated. So why wouldn't I still like hip hop? It's something that's, that I was there and fell in love with from the beginning. So that's what I'm always be, just like anybody else in their era, whether it was blues or, you know what I mean, or jazz or whatever it was at that time, when they was there when it originated. Of course they're going to be fans of it because they were there from the start. So yes, I am hip hop. Trust me. Yes.